So, Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to do the audio lingual method. So I'm going to cover introduction, goal, and the things related with ALM, that is audio lingual method. Let's talk about the introduction first. Basically, the audiolingual method is a method of foreign language teaching which emphasizes the teaching of listening and speaking before reading and writing. It uses dialogues as a main form of language presentation and drill as the main training technique. Mother tongue is discouraged in the classroom. Okay, so this is what happens in the audiolingual method, that uh, first thing is that it is used for teaching of foreign language. Secondly, listening and speaking skill is emphasized as compared to reading and writing. Okay, so basically it focuses on the communication, verbal and oral communication, rather than the written communication. Okay, and this is done through the presentation of dialogues and the drill of those dialogues. The audiolingual method is a product of three historical circumstances. Okay, so there are three important reasons of this audiolingual method. For its view on language, audiolingualism drew on the work of American linguists such as Leonard Bloomfield. The prime concern of American linguists at the early decades of the 20th century had been to document all the indigenous languages spoken in the USA. However, because of the dearth of trained native teachers who would provide a theoretical description of the native language, linguists had to rely on the background of ALM. Okay, so basically the first reason behind ALM was that Leonard Bloomfield want to note down or document all the languages that are spoken in USA, and because there were no native speakers, that's why he had to rely on the background of ALM. Now let's see how it works. Okay, so for the same reason, a strong focus on oral language was developed. Okay, and at the same time, behaviorist psychologists such as B.F. Skinner were forming the belief that all behavior, including language, was learned through repetition and through LM. I mean, at this time, all the psychologists just a minute. Yes, all the psychologists, especially Skinner, was planning to think about how language can be learned. Okay, and his focus was mainly on behaviorism. You have already studied behaviorism in your psycholinguistics, or you might be studying in this semester. Okay, so basically he focused on behaviorism, how language can be learned through behavior, through attitude, through repetition, through drill formation. Okay, so the third factor that enabled the birth of the audiolingual method was the outbreak of World War II. This is somewhat the main factor. Okay, because at that time in the World War II, the armies were unable to communicate with each other because of their different languages. Okay, so in order to make them communicate with each other, this method was introduced because dialogues were there. Only the required dialogues were taught or were drilled. They were learned through drilling by those army people. Okay, and through those dialogues they communicate with each other. So this was one of the reason as well, which created the need to post large number of American servicemen all over the world. It was therefore necessary to provide these soldiers with at least basic verbal communication. Okay, so this was the third reason, that the Americans, especially Americans, want to have some communication or discussion with other armies. For that they need to learn that language, or learning GTM se bhi possible nahi thi because it will be time consuming. It was not possible through the direct method. That's why this particular method was introduced, so that they can learn the specific particular dialogues that are required, and then they can have a communication. So unsurprisingly, the new method relied on the prevailing scientific method of the time, observation and repetition, which were all admirably suited to the teaching in masses, yani overall the masses, the people, because of the influence of the background of ALM. So this was the background of ALM because of which this method is introduced. That is, let me repeat it again. Number one, let me show you. Number one, was the reason that Leonard Bloomfield wanted to note down all the languages that were document all the languages that were used in USA, and because of that he focused on ALM so that he can communicate with the people and list down those languages. The second reason, that is Skinner want to focus on the language learning, the behaviorist, the psychology behind the people learning the language, and he noted that it's the repetition that is involved in learning a language. And the third, the most important one, is the World War II, because of which this method is introduced. I hope this is clear. Now, moving further, basically, audiolingual method is an oral based approach. It drills students in the use of grammatical sentence pattern. Okay, so there are grammatical sentences, and students are supposed to drill or repeat those loudly. जिसे रटिफिकेशन कहते हैं ना, so basically they repeat it again and again, drill it so that they will remember those dialogues in order to memorize those dialogues. Based on behavioral psychology Skinner, conditioning is helping learners to respond correctly to stimuli through shaping and reinforcement. And this is, you can say, somewhat habit formation is developed through this method. Now, if you go through the book, that is Larson and Freeman, then these are the dialogues, or the, you can say, the situation that is mentioned in that book focuses on these dialogues. Let's have a little bit of demo so that you will get a somewhat idea of the method, how it is conducted in the class. Okay, so I want to all of you to open your mics so that you can repeat after me. Okay, I'm going to read the dialogues first, okay, and then you can repeat after me. First of all, listen to me carefully. Sally, good morning, Bill. Bill, good morning, Sally. Sally, how are you? Bill, fine, thanks. And you? Sally, fine. Where are you going? Bill, I'm going to the post office. Sally, I'm too. Shall we go together? Sure, let's go. Okay, again, Sally, good morning, Bill. Bill, good morning, Sally. Sally, how are you? Bill, fine, thanks. And you? Sally, fine. Where are you going? Bill, I'm going to the post office. Sally, I am too. Shall we go together? Sure, let's go. Okay, so I want all of you to repeat after me, okay? Sally, good morning, Bill.
Sally, good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
Bill, good morning, Sally.
Bill, good morning, Sally.
Okay, Sally, how are you?
Sally, how are you?
How are you?
Bill, fine, thanks. And you?
Bill,
Bill,
fine,
Fine,
thanks. And you?
And you?
Sally, fine.
Fine.
Sally, fine.
Sally, fine.
Where are you going?
Where are you
Where
going?
going?
Bill, I'm going to
Bill,
post office.
I'm going to post office.
Sally, I am too.
Sally, I'm too.
I am too.
Shall we go together?
Shall we go together?
Sure, let's go.
Sure,
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, good. Let's repeat it again. Sally, good morning, Bill.
Sally, good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
Bill, good morning, Sally.
Bill, good morning, Sally.
Good morning, Sally.
Sally, how are you?
Sally, how are you?
How are you?
Bill, fine, thanks. And you?
Bill, fine, thanks. And you?
Thanks, and you?
Sally, fine. Where are you going?
Sally, fine. Where are you going?
Okay, Bill, I'm going to the post office.
Bill, I'm going
Bill,
to
I'm
post
going to the post office.
Okay, now I'm going to the market.
I am going to
I'm
the
going to the market.
I'm going to the restaurant.
I'm going
going
Going to the
restaurant.
restaurant.
I'm going to university.
I'm
going
going
to the university.
Okay, so this is how you can change these words. Vocabulary items can be introduced here. Instead of post office, different other items are added. Okay, Sally, I am too.
Sally, I am too.
Shall we go together?
Shall we go
Shall we
together?
go together?
Sure, let's go.
Sure,
Sure.
let's
Go.
Okay, now I want two students to play this role, okay, to read out these dialogues. Only two students. One will be Sally, one will be Bill.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, Sumaya and Yumna.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Sumaya, you will read out the dialogues of Sally. Okay, and Yumna, you can read out Bill's. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Sally.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine. Where are you going?
I'm going to the post office.
I'm too. Shall we go together?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, basically, this is how it is done in the class, but because this is an online class, so in the actual class, the teacher shows the picture of the post office, then she changes the picture of the post office to the picture of the restaurant, to the picture of the market, or whatever vocabulary she want to introduce. Okay, so it means audiovisual aid is also used in this case. Okay. So this is how this class is conducted. Let's discuss the details related with it. Like, for example, the sentence was, I'm going to the post office. This is introducing a new dialogue, uses a backward build-up drill. Like, for example, I told you, I'm going to the market. I'm going to the university. I'm going to the restaurant. Okay. So backup means this is change. Half of the sentence is changed, and then drill is repeated again. Okay, I mean the sentence is repeated again in the form of the drill. Uses a repetition drill in the form of the groups, and then a chain initiated, that is individual reading is there. Leads a single slot substitution drill, replaces a word or phrase, as I've just mentioned, and pictures can be shown along with it. Okay, because right now we don't have that situation. I won't be able to show the pictures here. So, but in actual classroom, pictures are also shown while they are reading out those sentences. And then praise the class during the practice. Means teacher, when students are speaking or reading out these dialogues, teacher praise them saying good, very good, and so on. Okay, as I've just shown you. Now, even how are you, as I have highlighted over there as well. So how are you shows the subject verb agreement. Okay, so it means grammar is also focused. There are exercises can be done after that, focusing on the subject. How are you? You, he, she, they are the subject pronouns. Be and verb forms are also introduced and explained to the students. Uses multiple slot substitution drills, which is substitution drills say post offices change with some other words, right? So this is how the language is taught. Okay, pronouns change kar diya. You ko how is he, how is she, how are they. Yeah, I को change कर दिया. She is going to the post office. Instead of saying I'm going to the post office, you can write she is going to the post office, he is going to the post office, they are going to the post office. This is how grammar is introduced to them, okay, to the students who are learning through ALM. Okay, uses a transformation drill. Active and passive voices or yes no questions can also be done in this through this method. Uses pictures again and select individuals. So pictures are used and then अभी तो मैंने सिर्फ 2 स्टूडेंट से कहा था कि रीड आउट करें, लेकिन क्लास में क्योंकि प्रैक्टिस करवानी होती है, सबको ये डायलॉग्स याद करवाने होते हैं, तो इसलिए ऑल्टरनेट दो स्टूडेंट्स करके ये प्रैक्टिस करवाई जा सकती है, ड्रिल करवाई जा सकती है क्लास में, एक्चुअल क्लासरूम में. Now there are some important principles behind this method. So these are the principles, important principles. Number 1, instructions are given in the target language. All the instructions in the details, just like in direct method, right? GTM wali jo cheez thi, translation wali wo wahi khatam ho gayi. Translation was no more here. Okay. Direct method focused totally on the target language, and here as well in ALM, target language is focused. Okay, all the instructions and everything is in the target language. Language forms occur within a context. there is some context, some situation is given, and all the dialogues are related with that situation. Why? Because as I've told you, the reason of introduction of this particular method was the World War II. ठीक है, तो वो आर्मी के लिए क्या सिचुएशन, किस सिचुएशन में उनको कौन से डायलॉग्स बोलने हैं, किस तरह से उनको कम्युनिकेट करना है, वो एक पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन उनको बताई जाती थी और उसके हिसाब से वो डायलॉग लर्न करते थे, राइट? सो बेसिकली दिस method focus on any particular specific context, and in that context the dialogues are learned. Okay, number 3, students' native language interferes as little as possible with the students' attempt to acquire the target language. Okay, so you can say that native language is almost totally ignored. Teaching is directed to provide students with a native speaker-like model. This is the main principle of the ALM, that it focuses on the native-like speaker model. Okay, errors are carefully avoided because they lead to the formation of the bad habit. Like for example, if somebody is pronouncing wrong, then the teacher correct it at that same time so that it won't turn to be a bad habit. Okay, क्योंकि ये एक हैबिट फॉर्मेशन है, दे आर एक्चुअली लर्निंग दोज डायलॉग्स. तो अगर एक दफा उन्होंने गलत बोला या गलत याद किया तो दे विल रिपीट द सेम, right? So that's why errors are carefully avoided and pointed out. Positive reinforcement help the students to develop correct habit, right? If they are saying anything right, then the teacher appreciate them, says good, very good, yes, it's right. Saying these things will reinforce the students to develop their correct habit, that is learning of those dialogues. Number 7, the teacher is regarded as an orchestra leader, conducting, guiding, and controlling the students' behavior in the target language. In a normal classroom, basically, the teacher is monitoring the class overall. ठीक है, ग्रुप्स में भी होते हैं स्टूडेंट्स को, जैसे भी इंडिविजुअल मैंने करवाई. ठीक है, क्लास में ग्रुप्स बना लेते हैं, एक ग्रुप सैली का जैसे डायलॉग्स रीड आउट कर रहा है, एक बिल के रीड आउट कर रहा है, right? So teacher is just like an orchestra leader who is asking the one of the group to speak, and then the other, and then again the first one, is तरह से guiding and controlling and conducting the overall behavior of the students, the language of the students. Number 8, learning a foreign language is treated as par with the native language learning. Okay, so it means this is main focus, foreign language. Number 9, students are taken to the imitators of the teacher's model or the tapes. Okay, so even tapes can be used, or the teacher is the best model. Just like, for example, right now I have read out those like dialogues first, and then I have asked you to repeat after me. Okay, so students are just imitating what the teacher has said, or if the tape is played for them. Number 10, the dialogue is the chief means of presenting vocabulary, structures, and it is learned through repetition and imitation. Okay, I hope there is no confusion because I have mentioned at that time as well when I was reading the dialogue that vocabulary is introduced in this way, right? Post office की जगह कोई भी नया word introduce कर दिया, market, restaurant, university, and so on. So this is how vocabulary items can be introduced. The structure of the language is learned through the dialogues themselves. ठीक है, अलग से कोई structure पढ़ाया नहीं जाता कि क्या किस तरह से. हाँ, pronouns वगैरह का focus किया जाता है. ठीक है, grammar is focused but not the overall structure. Number 11, memorization and pattern drills are the practice techniques that are emphasized. Number 12, listening and speaking are given priority in language learning and they precede reading and writing. So main focus is on listening and speaking rather than reading and writing. And the correct pronunciation, stress, and rhythm are focused. Then let's talk about the goals. The basic goals of this method, that is ALM, is that teachers want their students to be able to use the target language communicatively. Okay, this is the main goal. The students will be able to communicate through that particular target language. That's why they are making the students learn those dialogues so that they can communicate in their real life. Over learning automatically without stopping to think. Overlearning, when they completely learn those dialogues, when they memorize it very well, then obviously they will automatically learn, speak out those or communicate in their daily life. Forming new habits through overcoming the old habit. Old habit, that was the direct method, translation. Okay, leaving those habits or methods and forming a new habit, that is of learning in the target language through the dialogues. This was the main goal. Now, if we talk about the teacher or the student's role, then as I've just mentioned, the teacher is just like an orchestra reader, right? Guiding and controlling the class overall and providing students with a good model of for imitation. And students are just the imitators. Now, the main characteristics of the teaching and learning process of this method is that new vocabulary and structural patterns are presented through dialogues. ठीक है, वो जो मैंने आपको अभी principles कहा, तो that basically covers overall everything, right? But now individually I'm pointing out each and every characteristic, ठीक है, of teaching, learning, of student-teacher relationship, of their roles, and so on. ठीक है, overall principles cover each and everything which I'm explaining right now. Okay, so structural patterns are presented through dialogues, and dialogues learning through imitations and repetition, positively reinforced, and grammar is induced from the examples. Induced from the examples means that grammar is learned through the examples. जैसे text में उन्होंने learn किया, I am going to the market, post office या market, and then I is changed from with he, she. So examples are given and rules are taught later on or not taught at all. Okay, so basically grammar is learned through the examples. Now, if we talk about the student-teacher interaction or student interaction, then the interaction is teacher directed, that is teacher centered class is there, but the student interaction is also there. ठीक है, in the form of chain drills and dialogues, जो अभी जैसे मैंने आपका करवाया, तो there was interaction between the students. One of the student was Bill, one of the student was Sally. Okay, so there is student interaction as well. टीचर सेंटर्ड क्लास तो है, लेकिन स्टूडेंट्स का इंटरेक्शन यहाँ स्टार्ट हो गया है. जैसे जीटीएम में बिल्कुल भी इंटरेक्शन नहीं था, डायरेक्ट मेथड में थोड़ा सी स्पेस दी थी स्टूडेंट को कि स्टूडेंट कैन कम्युनिकेट विद द टीचर ओनली, right? But here from this method, from ALM, student interaction has also started through the use of dialogues only. Okay. Then the view of the language or the culture, as I have told you in the previous method, in the direct method, that cultural text was used, non-literary text was used in case of direct method. So यहाँ पे the view of the language be influenced by descriptive linguist. Each level, phonological, morphological, has its own distinctive pattern. Everyday speech is emphasized. The level of complexity of the speech is graded. Okay, so you can say that the language is learned through culture. ठीक है, cultural aspect or language aspect, everything is covered in this method. ठीक है, जो भी आपकी डेली रूटीन में आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट होती है वो यूज होती है, उस तरह की लैंग्वेज इस मेथड में यूज होती है. ओके, then the areas, this is again a very important thing, the area of language, which area of language is emphasized and which language skill is emphasized. As I've mentioned, that the area is vocabulary and the language skills are reading and listening and speaking before reading and writing. Okay, so it is mentioned here as well. Vocabulary is kept to a minimum while the students are mastering the sound system and grammatical pattern. Okay, vocabulary is also there, but main focus is on the phonology and the grammatical patterns. And just a minute. Okay, so the national order of skills presentation is adhered to listening, speaking, reading, and writing. But again, listening and speaking are focused first and then reading and writing. The oral skills receive most of the attention. Okay, that is listening and speaking. Now, the role of the native language. What is the role of the native language? The habit of the students' native language are taught to interfere are thought to interfere with the students attempt to master the target language. ठीक है, जैसे previously GTM में होता था कि उनकी जो mother tongue थी that interferes, right? वो कहीं ना कहीं involved थी, but this habit is, I mean, this method tried to remove that habit, ठीक है, of using the students' native language. They have to think in the target language. Okay, so that's why the target language is mostly used in the classroom instead of the native language. Now, evaluation, that is nature of the method was discrete point. I mean, we are going to discuss this in detail later on, but just keep this thing in your mind that the assessment was of discrete point level. Okay, each question on the test would focus on only one point of the language at a time. जो भी टेस्ट होता था वो किसी एक यानी जो एग्जाम होता था वो किसी एक पॉइंट को फोकस करता था, either vocabulary or pronouns or grammatical structure, so on. Okay, overall test was not taken of these students. Okay, and how we can deal with the errors in this method, as I've just mentioned before as well, okay, errors should are not tolerated. Okay, the students' error are to be avoided if at all possible through teachers' awareness of where the students will have difficulty and restriction of what they are taught to say. Okay, so if like for example they're unable to speak out the word restaurant, okay, so teacher is going to make them drill this particular vocabulary again and again so that they can pronounce it correctly, okay, in order to avoid any kind of error. Because if if they learn any wrong pronunciation, so it will develop a bad habit. Okay, so this is all about this method. Larson and Freeman is a very good book, Techniques and Principles in Language Learning, through which this lecture is focused or recorded. So that's all for ALM.